Krishna. Welcome everyone. We especially welcome all the devotees who have come from all the places from Maharashtra. I think Aurangabad, Chopati, Chipulun, Baramati. From where else? And of course Pune, the land of education. So it is indeed our great pleasure to have this Maha Kumbha of devotees engaged in education as a primary service, and we feel very happy that especially Dayalu Ampru was the one who was behind me to make this happen. From almost 1 year we are planning for this. Last year when I had gone to Chopati, this was in a seed form and we just did something for just Pune Chopati collaboration. But then we thought, why just maintain it so small? Why not just extend it to all devotees who do this service? So in the beginning of this session, I would like to give introduction to this group called Educare. That's our Namakaran. So anytime you find that in your personal life, in your family life, community life, or in your service forum, devotees are having difficulty understanding what exactly we are doing and getting along together, services getting hampered. You could go back to some of these principles that I am going to talk now. If you can work upon them, you will find that you can create a Sangha that produces harmony, beauty and productivity, and not disharmony, ugliness and lack of productivity. So we would like to begin with what is our common vision, why we are here together. By the way, we are better together. None of us is as smart as all of us. So when we come together and do some service, things are much better. Naham tishtami vaikunthe yoginam hridayeshva tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti Madbhaktaha Madbhaktaha. You understand the Sanskrit Anekvachan? Wherever my devotees come together and render a service, I am there. So therefore, we solidly believe in Sankirtan, or whatever we do in Sangha Shakti Kalau Yuge. So the basic purpose, common vision that we carry is to create platform for sharing, caring and synergizing our efforts in the field of education, culture and devotion, or services that we offer. So ISKCON has one issue that we are often finding, that all over the world there are such stalwart devotees doing such wonderful services, but usually there are independent lions roaring in independent jungles. There is no sharing of their wonderful resources that they have generated, ideas that they have, and in fact some of the best, they call business practices that they have figured out, they are never shared, and that's why people keep reinventing or reorienting themselves. Can you please come a little ahead? Everyone a little ahead. And maybe Matajis can make one row here additionally. Prabhu, you can sit inside a little. Can make one row here in straight. By the way, if you come late, then you get videographed, and that goes internationally telecasted on internet. So just be a little careful about that one. Okay? So we want to share our resources that we generate, especially our lesson plans, methods, and we also want to share our ideas, and we especially want to share our best practices. So that is what we are here for. Another thing is we want to care for each other. Actually, teachers are the most drained out people on the planet, usually. There is something called as pathologies of care. which means caregivers fall sick very repeatedly. In the hope of giving care to others, they themselves have a lot of issues, health issues, because we borrow on to the problems, emotions, even weird natures of people that we associate with. And if we don't have systems where we regularly take care of ourselves, we actually cannot go far in giving service to others. So there is a saying, doctor, heal thyself. So we need to care for each other. And then synergize. Synergy typically means एक और एक 11 होते हैं. When we come together, we can maximize each other's strengths and minimize each other's weaknesses, or at least make them irrelevant. I can compensate by my strengths your weaknesses, and you can compensate by your strengths my weaknesses. So in this way, we can actually create a powerful impact, clout on the society. There is one problem we are facing in ISKCON, and that is how much of outsiders' ideas, materials, resources, can we adopt in offering our service of education to our audiences. And many times devotees struggle with this. They want to maintain their loyalty to Guru Parampara, yet they want to be broad-minded, to accept varieties of good ideas and what you call working principles. So if there is an official forum within ISKCON that is endorsed by the GBC, the temple presidents and others, and they are exclusively working like this, nobody can pinpoint that these people are deviants, because it's authorized. If somebody tries to do something, in some corner of the universe without authorization, and usually if they bring up also good ideas here, they may be questioned. Where did Srila Prabhupada say that? For example. And then they may land up again in a problem. So we want to make sure that our good work doesn't go waste, even of research and extraction of good ideas. So this is our common vision. Dayalu Ram Prabhu, would you like to add to this? So we have a website that we are generating called krishnascalling.com. This website we want to make the portal on the planet for all devotee teachers, parents and caregivers of all kind, that they should go here for anything under the sun they need for their service. So for various age group children, many of you are running Krishna's Kingdom or Gopal's Garden or Gopal's Fun School. Then there is Bhakta Prahlad School, so many such forums. Many of you are also part of some kind of, like we have Bhaktivedanta Model School here, full-fledged officially run school, CBSE school. So like this we have varieties of forums, and they may find value here because everyone, whatever materials they have developed will be in one place. It's just that you need to have, again, authorized login, because we don't want our things to go to anybody and everybody. So if you still don't have a login for this, you have to write to Dayalu Ram Prabhu at and send an email, and you will be asked for authorization, which includes your counselor's name and phone number, I guess. And once we have conviction that he's a bona fide member who won't misuse our content, the website is yours. You can even upload, take from there whatever you need. And sometimes we keep certain things open which you can, like Wikipedia, keep modifying, making better those resources. So this is what we are here for. Is that okay? Anyone would like to do something different than what has been so far said? When we are coming together, you have an idea, very creative idea, that maybe we should do this. Okay, I think after prasadam creativity becomes difficult, so we will go a little ahead. I'll leave that to you for munching. If you ever get some ideas, you'll be surprised to know many of the innovations that Google has, they have come from actually sudden disruptive innovations. Somebody suggested something and they made a whole business out of that. millions of dollars of business. So at least for Krishna we can produce tons of service if we can offer our creativity. Then the next item is commitment. Whether other devotees in your yatra are committed to this common vision or not, you shall remain committed. Not like दुनिया जाए तेल लेने, but in Marathi they say तुम्ही आले तर तुमच्या सहित, नाही आले तर तुमच्या शिवाय. We will do this work. We are convinced that education is the solution. So of the 7 purposes of ISKCON, the first purpose is to systematically offer education, knowledge, techniques and values of spirituality to people in general. So basically ISKCON is an educational institution. It is not just building buildings, generating funds and spending them in varieties of ways, but actually what is the quality of our education will decide what is the quality of our movement. So we want to remain committed to this individually after having decided this common vision. So every time you come across something nice and new, or you develop something, without hesitation you just share it out. Of course, unless you want to commercialize it, we respect that. But in general, Brahmanas means liberal minded. They give everything freely to qualified candidates. So we request you to kindly share and remain committed to that vision that we described. At least in your own small ways, form groups of 8-12 devotees in your own centers and come together regularly once a month and really do something about this. Not that you come once in a year to Pune, attend one session and then again next year another session, something like that. You figure out a frequency and also the agenda of your regular meetings and work on that. For this I will send you a document called Raising a Village to Raise a Child, which I recently prepared in thoughts of how to create Educators and Parents Association in local ISKCON groups. So that document may help you to organize your educational activities locally. You don't need to come here, there and go anywhere sometimes. You can find out people interested and start doing your own thing. Commitment. The next item in this group we are looking forward to is example. It is not that we just want to have commitment for this common vision, but in general how we live life as a Brahmana, educationist. What is the quality of our sadhana? What is the quality of our sadachara? What is the quality of our commitment to Prabhupada's mood and mission? That example speaks louder in terms of giving us trustworthiness in the eyes of our community members. You may be shocked to know, when you become a devotee, and more specifically when you become an educator, people watch you under telescope and microscope. They really watch you under telescope and microscope. So therefore, we have to go in this direction. The next item in this Educare we want to have, you can even sometimes call this as self-discipline. How well we lead our own lives. Atma Sanyam. Basically the 9 qualities of a Brahmana that Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita is what I am talking here about. Sometimes we want to become educator, but we don't follow the value systems or the cultures that scriptures prescribe for educators. That will not go long. We will fumble. Some time or other it is not sustainable. So we have to make sure that we are constantly working on these. Then there is understanding. Whoever are your team members or the community to which you are trying to offer your service, develop tremendous understanding with them. Who they are, what are their values, what they need, what are their ambitions, what they don't like. And same with you as an educator. You have to create that forum where people can understand each other as team members. What are we here individually as? So we are here together in this way, but then we need to have this understanding individually. So there is that nectar of instruction, verse number 4. Dadati pratigruhnati goihamakhati pruchhati bhungte bhojayate. Those priti lakshanas to be regularly exchanged between the educators. So that will help them to deeply understand each other and serve properly in their community. Fifth is communication. Communication is the blood flow of relationships. If people stop communicating, relationship becomes what they call when blood is not flowing in some part of the body. Numbness? Huh? Any medical term? Gangrene? No. Huh? Paralysis. Okay, the relationships become paralyzed without communication. So, communication. So, establish valid channels of communication with each of your community members, internal and external. Internal community members are your educators team, and then your temple yatra, whoever is interested in taking services from you. You have to have straight one-on-one communication with them. So WhatsApp, email, whatever, website. So we have to create SMSing system, whatever it is, that works for you. Then comes good organization. By the way, without these first 4 things, if you start communicating, there is usually a lot of quarrel and misunderstanding. So people have difficulty with each other. Then comes organization. Prabhupada one time woke up Giriraj Maharaj in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock in Juhu. And when he offered obeisances and got up after coming in the room of Prabhupada, Prabhupada asked him, how will ISKCON grow? And he said, night 1 o'clock. This question. So he said, Prabhupada, if you all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offenselessly, ISKCON will grow. Prabhupada said, no. He said, Prabhupada, if we cooperate with each other as devotees, ISKCON will grow. I said, no. Prabhupada, if you nicely study your books and preach Krishna consciousness everywhere, ISKCON will grow. I said, no. Then he said, now I think my capacity is over after this. So he said, you tell Srila Prabhupada, how will ISKCON grow? By organization and intelligence. Because if you are not organized and not intelligently doing your service, then you cannot sit down and chant offenseless rounds. There will be issues in devotee association. Your mind will be filled with offenses. If you are not doing proper organization, you cannot be having cooperation and all that, You can't even sit down, study and preach properly to others. So, a lot depends on this. So, we have to become good organizers, like Dayalu Ram Prabhu. And then we have unconditional service to our clan. Now that word unconditional is a little scary. We have to create one-to-one as well as group service forums where we make our services accessible to others and we actually offer our services. So this applies to everything. This applies to your family life. This applies to your school, Gopal's Fun School, whatever that you are running as a thing. This applies to our forum, Educare. This also applies to ISKCON. So my humble request to all of you that let us be on one page with what exactly are we doing here. Anytime you find any one of us not living by these principles, you humbly come up and say, Prabhu, what happened to our ... वो कहाँ घास खाने चला गया, understanding या organization या whatever. So we have to ask that. We should not fear anyone in terms of what they will think about it. Because if they are genuine, they will sense that this question is coming out of genuine Vaishnava concern. It's not coming out of some superiority or fault-finding nature. So these are some things we want to practice here in the Educare forum. You want to add something? Anyone would like to add something here? Any questions? Any frustrations? Sorry. No. Here we are talking intrinsic qualities. Who we are. These are implicit things. You can call maybe this as internal organization. This is external organization. This is what we do. You know. Like how Mahavishnu glances over Pradhana and he manifests, Mahat Tattva. Organized matter. So like that you become a tiny servant of Mahavishnu, whatever Mahavishnu does, and you glance over Pradhana referring to the conglomerate of resources, people, opportunities lying unaddressed in Krishna's service. So you glance over it and give some energy. And after that things get activated around. So Krishna likes we being co-creators along with him, especially when that we have come to the material world. Originally we came for that only, to become a creator independently. So now we do it in his service. So this is external organization. I hope I am clear. There could be many more principles that are important. These are not some fallen from the sky, some Moses given that slab, stone slab with 10 commandments or anything like that. There are just some very important things. If we pay attention to them, we can avoid a lot of disturbance and actually do good quality service. Is that okay? Not yet. You have, last time I had printed and given, but I don't know whether that is put into Krishna's calling website. He's asking that question. Not yet. I think he will do it now, soon. Okay. So this is so far our background, why we are here together. Now, Ashu, can you rub this off? Now, I will move to my topic today, improving memory in the age of forgetfulness. So what I have to say to you, I have put it into a PDF. I have and I'm going to send it on WhatsApp, I guess. No? Everybody is registered here by now with email and phone number. Is there anyone who is not yet registered? Okay, so outside there is a desk that was put up, I guess. So please register yourself so that you get common messages, whatever, from this forum regularly. So I think none of us needs any introduction on age of forgetfulness. We have enough experienced it. Prayena alpayushasabhyaha kalavasmin yuge janaha mandaha sumandamatayaha. That is the age of forgetfulness. Mandabhagyahi upadhrutaha. So these are the glorious characteristics of souls born in Kali Yuga. Alpa ayushaha, short-lived. Mandaha. In Pune there is a famous gali. हा पौडाकडचा आहे, थोडा मंद आहे. कसला मंद आहे रे तू? टिपिकल वे ऑफ belittling someone. So manda means slow to grasp. Things are little, उसका CPU थोड़ा कम काम करता है, processor. So manda. It's like, if somebody starts using 486 now, microprocessor chip, in the age of now i7 and i5 chips that have come, how will that be? So mandaha. Then sumanda matayaha. We have poor memory. If I ask you last week, this same day, what did you eat in breakfast? Say hee hee hee. We don't remember much anything. So this is our memory. Of course, if you had come to temple, then you may sometimes remember. But that's temple's credit, not your credit. So manda bataya. Then manda bhagya. Manda bhagya means khoda pahad nikla chuha. We do so much endeavor in our life for so many things, and at the end of that we get some paltry benefit. Like some of our devotees are into, in our ashram also, learning Sanskrit, and some congregation I know they are into learning Jyotish, or I was recently into learning education. But after going through that whole ordeal, the essence that you get out of it is really like quite meager. So manda bhagya. And upadhrutaha means constantly disturbed. Not once in a while. Constantly disturbed. Right now sitting here, there is some disturbance going on. Physical, mental, emotional. So in this condition, कौन करेगा एजुकेशन? चला मुरारी हीरो बनने, ना खुद का हालत देखो पहले. So sometimes we have to really become kind of sobered up in terms of rendering our service. So what is the understanding? How can somebody with these disqualifications get into serving others? So the solution is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's words. Amar आज्ञाएं गुरु होया तारा ए देश, जारे देखो तारे कहो Krishna Upadesh. On my order you become a teacher of Krishna consciousness and deliver people around you by offering them Krishna Upadesh. So Krishna Upadesh is Bhagavad Gita by Krishna and Bhagavatam about Krishna. So this is called Krishna Upadesh. So we have to become whatever kind of champions in these two scriptures to begin with in our service. So in order to remember, then to speak, we really require some memory. And that's why today's topic is maha-relevant, super relevant. I would not go into the modern brain research elaborately. I'll just give you glimpses of what those fellows are doing in the outside world to try and improve the memory of mankind. So there are three things that they have figured out about the brain. They are called as functional, neural, and constructional analysis of the brain. Functional analysis means that in the brain there are various parts or areas that kind of capture particular inputs that you gather, such as shape, color, motion, taste. So there are areas that register those things. That's what they have figured out using their pratyaksha praman. And now they say that now we know how the whole body functions based on which part gets fired up. Not in Krishna consciousness, but in some electrical activity. So they say that if we can do some pre-firing or create conducive learning environments, then these areas will always be in a sharp condition to respond properly to incoming stimuli. So that is functional understanding of brain. This is used in educational system as brain-based learning. So if you want, you can Google it out. You will get enough information on this topic, brain-based learning, how to do it in the classroom. So you can Google for the specific title, brain-based learning, how to use in the classroom. So you will get enough for this. Then, however, although they know which parts correspond to which functions, the problem is they don't know how these things sync with each other. You understand syncing? Just like in the motion picture, when the hero is giving a punch to the villain, so if there is some, what they call, phase shift, in the signal of sound and the picture, then what happens? First the punch comes and after some time, boom, the sound comes. And you wonder what is happening here. Huh? But when I am talking right now, my motion, my tone of voice, and the shape and things that are being drawn around, you are simultaneously capturing this data and syncing it. That's why you are getting a wholesome experience. How does this happen? Scientists have no clue. The second analysis they have done is called neural analysis. Now this is used primarily in what is it called? Very famous field of, if your eyes are looking up, you are thinking about something, right? You are looking. What is that analysis called as? NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. This whole field is talking about this aspect that I am sharing now. Again, another Google search, NLP and its usage in classroom. So as I told you, I am not going to get into this stuff here, but it is a useful stuff that we can use. So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, you can do that research, how to use that in training children, in classroom, raising your kids. So good amount of research has been done, people are trying to figure out things. So here the understanding is that there are wirings in the brain, basically. And the brain has the ability to rewire the wirings according to new experiences that are generated. So sometimes there are neurons that are going around in those networks that are formed, and those neurons, the way they get fired or misfired decides the behavior of the person. So sometimes people, they say psychological problem hai isko thoda. What does that mean? That his neurons are misfiring. At wrong time they do wrong, firing somewhere. So this is what the analysis is of neural, and they use this in education. So if you have repeated certain activities very well, multiple number of times, then there is a wiring that forms in your system that every time makes you an expert in doing that activity. You have seen this? Like playing mridanga, sometimes those things become like second nature. You are not even conscious, they just happen. You are busy doing other things like singing or whatever. So that is the understanding here. The third understanding of scientists is constructional understanding of brain. So just like in the computer we have memory, CPU, like that. So they have figured out which parts of the brain do the storage function, which parts of the brain do the retrieval function. So this is called functional analysis of the brain, constructional. And this constructional analysis is used in constructivism, is another branch of education, very popular in modern times. Children construct knowledge on their own, provided we help the construction occur properly. Just like that building that is coming up, in front of our temple. So the builder is not necessarily doing the construction himself, but he has created systems by which there is a way in which the construction is taking place gradually. Like that, in the role of an educator, we actually arrange learning through constructivism. So another Google search, using constructivism in classroom or in training children. I hope you don't mind me dumping work on you, because I have things to say which are even more important than this. But I just want you to have some otherworldly understanding of memory. Constructivism. So how knowledge is constructed by children and how we can facilitate that. Okay. So far whatever I said is modern science. Now you may say, Prabhu, I don't believe in it. I'm fine with it. I don't take offense. So don't get on my case ki how are you quoting in a spiritual organization, scientific theories. I do agree that scientists are sometimes partially correct. It's like that 6 blind men and elephant story. So somebody catches the trunk and he says elephant is like a snake. Somebody catches the teeth of the trunk of the elephant and he says, tusks of the elephant, and he says this is like an arrow. Now is he wrong? Knowing the fact that he's blind, he's not wrong. So he's okay in his own way. So in the same manner, the science, the problem is there is the elephant of education, or rather the elephant of consciousness, how it gets trained. And these educationists are like, with their 3 modes blinding them, are trying to figure out some patches here and there, and they're figuring out, mujhe chamak constructivism, oh mujhe chamak gaya, NLP. So it's that kind of business going on. But nevertheless, it is somewhat correct and can be somewhat used in our service. So that's just the background for this memory. Now, so this is called piecemeal treatment of memory. Piecemeal, take everything separate. So modern science has got only one perspective about it, which is gross mechanistic perspective. However, Vedic literatures describe that there is 3 kinds of memory. Of course, there is Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik. I think we are too much into preaching. So there is 3 kinds of memory. There is gross memory, there is subtle memory, and there is spiritual memory. So when we talk of reviving our children's memory, we have to work in these 3 dimensions. So what do you mean by gross memory? What just now I described. How memory is stored in the brain, how the brain responds, to those stimuli when they come back once again in our life. Very, very gross understanding of memory. What science is offering. That too not perfect. So this gross memory, you can compare this to be like a hardware memory. And the subtle memory, which is the software. And then there is the operator, the soul. And soul has his chit potency. He is knowledgeable. And he has his own memory function, independent of whether the material body exists or not. So that is called the spiritual memory of a person. So, we already elaborated the gross memory. What we would like to do is elaborate subtle and spiritual memory. So memory is stored in our subtle body. Have you seen people who are born with birth defects? They are prodigies, they have birthmarks and phobias. Where does that come from? In the previous life, if the person drowned and died, in this life he has phobia of water. If in the previous life he was a drummer, and I think you have seen that video of Cole Marquis, the 4-year-old drummer boy. You have not seen. I think Krishna's Calling needs to have that material, so we'll immediately give it to you. Cole Marquis, 4-year-old drummer boy, is a prodigy. He never went to any professional drumming school. His parents have no music sense in their genes. But this fellow is a powerful drummer. Just like our Ananta. Where is Ananta? Ananta can solve Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds. I guess Mataji and Truji have no clue of Rubik's Cube in their life. That's my hope. I'm just guessing. If you ask Save Sachiprabhu, can you solve this Rubik's Cube? He will say, Hare Krishna. Not by. So, how does that come? So, this is called subtle memory. Earlier past, something has been stored, and that is now being repeated as a skill or behavior.
Every child will have that.
Every child has it. Every single child has it. Even we have it. There are many things we do naturally, and there are things that we can't do. In our mobile language, we can say that some apps are loaded in the system and some apps are not there. So, this is an important point he is raising. Getting into education is more of a self-awareness exercise, more than spiritual upliftment of others and all that. What happens is when you become a teacher, you develop tremendous self-awareness. Just like I give that example. You take out your mobile, and in the mobile there is the settings. You go into the settings, and the bottommost item there is about phone. So there it says model number, Android version, CPU, RAM, internal memory capacity, ... So what you just now got is called mobile realization. So now this you can apply to yourself. So if as a teacher we can start developing who am I, we will become powerful in terms of what we can bring out of our children. So many times we are not in so much touch with ourselves, proper awareness of our own system. So this is important. So where does that genius come from? Subtle memory from the past life. So of course devotees have immediate convictions in these things, so I will not describe too elaborate on that. And then finally we have spiritual memory. The spiritual memory are the memory of our Swarupa, our spiritual activities that we eternally perform in the kingdom of God. And somehow चेतना पर गहरा सदमा पहुंचने के कारण इनकी याददाश्त खो गई है. So something like that has happened for us when we have come into the material world. Maya has made us fool. We have forgotten our original spiritual nature, and we are doing stupid things. So there is a way to revive both these memories. So as parents or teachers, if you are only trying to give children memory so that they can score nice marks in papers and they can run the economic machinery of our country or maybe the planet, then we are sadly mistaken about the purpose of this memory development. This is ragging in the name of education, or ragging in the name of. And sometimes I have seen parents. One devotee came and told me his 10th, 12th, 12th standard exams have got over, and after the exam has got over, his mother is telling him, "Padhai kyun nahi kar raha hai?" And he said, "My exam got over." So nahi, aadat chhutni nahi chahiye. So he said, "Hey, come on, this is just too much. Leave me at least 1 month in my life to do something." So can you imagine how much second nature it has become? This tendency, improve memory. शंख पुष्पी पियो, ब्राह्मी खाओ, हमेशा पढ़ाई करो. बुक में से सर बाहर निकाला तो फोड़ देंगे उसको. So that kind of a whole arrangement, we are actually going somewhere else. So if you are really interested in memory development, know the 3 types and develop all, not just one. So as regards to the brain development, again there will be another document I will give. I will just show you the document if you want. That's called 14 helpful suggestions for improving memory. And these are very simple suggestions, not very difficult to follow. Developing will, keeping concentration, picturizing your learning material, using spaced method, avoiding shocks and emotional disturbances in life because the wiring changes suddenly otherwise. use learnt material. Learnt material typically means making mind maps. You first learn the material and then don't refer anymore the book. You use your learnt material, So like that, and that is elaborated as we go further. So I'm not going to discuss this here. This is some material that you can read and understand. This doesn't need discussion. Question? I would prefer to think it is spiritual memory. But the moment we develop thoughts of enjoyment independent of Krishna, we get some moha. Maya avaranatmika, prakshepatmika comes in picture. But in general, we see our other memories are also clouded. The subtle memory is clouded of the other good experiences we had with that same person with whom we have become angry now. And I guess our brain also gets disturbed in the process. So generally the one disturbance caused here reflects in other dimensions. So, but originally the disturbance is here.
So other two are dependent on the spiritual one.
Obviously. If you set right your spiritual one, I will go and talk about that very elaborately, and that's why the class is. If you set right that one, you will see naturally the other two are set right for the person. And how that happens we will see soon. By the way, role of recitation. Even scientists have found out that what you recite by yourself has a very powerful impact on memorization. We generally tend to think, oh, rote learning, kya fayda hai uska, that kind of a thing. No. Rote learning has its role in memory. Even spiritual memory. Just like we say, Gajendra in his previous lifetime, he had learned some prayers for Vishnu. And when he became caught in the jaws of the crocodile, he remembered those prayers. Of course, by the mercy of the Lord, and that came to his rescue. So this is how the memory works on all three levels. Where was I? This is not what I was saying. Yeah, so the gross way of doing things I am not going to discuss because they are here on the paper and you can apply them for your children just by reading them. You can understand. But I want to discuss something else. Regarding the other memory development, there are factors that generally devotees don't pay attention to, which are very critical in development of the memory. So, Sthayi Smarana Shakti Ka Vikas, if that is the title you would like to give. And this is where your earlier Panchakosh knowledge may come to help, if you have it. Even if you don't have it, doesn't matter. So there are karmendriyas. Hands, legs, voice, anus, genitals. And there are jnanendriyas. Eyes, ears, nose, skin, tongue. And then there is mana. So when we are talking about subtle memory, we are now going to discuss the connection with these. Many times parents are over eager to develop learning in their children which is of subtle memory nature, which means they want them to by heart their sums or verses, or they sometimes the exact answers that the exams demand to be written in the paper. But problem is we don't pay attention to development of these two prior to jumping into this exercise. Usually it takes at least 7 years of non-threatening educational experience where memory demands are not put on the child to actually develop subtle memory properly. I'll repeat. It takes at least 7 years of non-threatening experience for the child in education. No memory demands put on him. चल बता क्या पढ़ा तेरे को कल. Typical one. You see, when Hiranyakashipu is also asking Prahlad Maharaj, he is not asking him, tell me what you learnt yesterday or what you learnt in that lesson. He asks him a very open question. Tell me what you liked and what you understood to be the best education that you got from your teachers. Because he knows it's a 5-year-old child. No ragging. Even Hiranyakashipu is not doing ragging. So this is how questions are to be asked to children, even if you want to know how much they have learnt in their life. So what happens? Devotees don't pay attention to these two. For example, there is physical exercise, good rest at night, identifying and treating health problems. In our Vidyashram, after every 6 months we call an Ayurvedic doctor and do a health checkup for all the kids, and it was so shocking. The child had this problem of stomach upset or not having proper bowel movements, not able to see certain things properly for 6 months or 1 year or sometimes 2 years, and there was no awareness of that for the parents. Only when you ask them those questions, and there is a whole set of questions, we can even give them to you about all the karmendriyas, all the jnanendriyas, the questions to be asked to the kids. Are you doing well in these dimensions? And we can sometimes not ask questions but give them exercises where it becomes clear to us that he has a problem with his fingers, he has a problem with his sitting postures, hip movements. So many times this is not done. So my request is that we regularly do this for all our children, whatever service it may be. Just arrange another devotee Ayurvedic doctor, get the questionnaire prepared or use the one we have, and do this regularly. It will be a great service for them in future if the problems are detected earlier, without delay. And then after all this is done, there is a way the mana works. See, mana needs samskara, and that samskara needs it's called uti, inspiration or stimuli to reproduce itself, in the memory. So samskaras are best formed when these are in good shape. If they are not in good shape, the impressions that are formed on the mind are not proper. Even if the child is sitting in your classroom and if any of these are in trouble, then there is no sangrahana shakti, storage, because sangrahana samyak rupena grahana, it's properly capturing that experience, the samskara of education. Then there is no, they call, I'll just write the English terms without confusing you with Sanskrit. Repeat, rehearse, organize, visualize, cue, and group. So these are the methods which help the samskara formation in the mind and also the samskara retrieval. So ability to store properly and retrieve your memory. So what do you mean repeat? As soon as you have taught something, I am not doing it here because I know you are not children, but sometimes it's good to make them repeat. What did I say just now? It's good to make people repeat. So that's called repeat. Rehearse means it's a little longer thing. Can Dayalu Ram Prabhu quickly summarize what I have been saying in last 2-3 minutes about the topic of samskara as an important factor in developing memory?
I think what I understood was that before we focus on the, before we pressurize the child to improve, give exams, yeah, he has to develop his karmendriya and gyanendriya. So only once that is developed, then one can focus on developing the mental memory.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Only then the samskaras formed will be proper, sangrahana will be proper, then further things can happen. But without this, you don't expect much. Getting specs is a typical example of messed up Jnanendriya, including myself. You know, why that happens is because at an early age, we force them to read. Or they read in the wrong way, you know, holding it too close or whatever. Anyways, so organize. Now this is from teacher's skill point of view as well as the child. Whatever the teacher teaches has to be very organized material. People can periodically figure out the zoom in, zoom out context of what is going on in the classroom. Zoom in means right now we are discussing Sthayi Smarana Shakti ka Vikas. But the actual topic is improving memory in the age of forgetfulness. That's zoom out. And in that topic we are discussing three things: gross memory, subtle memory, spiritual memory. Currently we are into subtle memory, Smarana Shakti. So this is called organized. So whatever we are offering them that material, and sometimes it is best that we ask the child to organize their own material their way. Instead of we giving him ready-made, study guide, they can study the study guide, no problem. Like for example, it happened with me after reading Ishopanishad 21 times and teaching it 7 times. I developed a particular way of seeing Ishopanishad. I won't show it now here, but it is just too good in terms of how the material is organized in that Upanishad. And when I once shared it in my counseling group and some Bhakti Shastri class, people said, wow, this is nothing like we have seen before. And I said, well, that is, I have been organizing and reorganizing this material in my own head for a lot number of times. And now it has become to this stage. So, ultimately when we do it for ourselves, we will never forget that subject matter. It's just not possible. But because that organization is so well established in our samskara. Then comes visualize. Now, this organized material, we have to ask people to sit back and visualize or teach it to yourself. That's another method. I used this method during my 10th and 12th standard. It really worked fine. Teach it to yourself. How many of you used to do this? You taught yourself? Okay, good. All toppers are here. Or Tulsi Puru's handwriting, if you see, and he in his mechanical engineering days was so meticulous. He would even write the questions that are there in the book. Sometimes there are engineering sums that are like long. Generally, you would just say that in this paper, in this book, page number this question, I am now solving the answer, right? He was such a hard-working boy. And he said to me later on that when I write the problem, the solution becomes obvious to me. And then I used to use his notes. That's how I also, I guess, got good marks. Especially for theory of machines, Tom, and AT, applied thermodynamics, especially steam engine. Prabhuji was champion. So, teach it to yourself. Go through that material, close the doors, and imagine fictitious, students sitting in front of you. So today the topic of discussion is applied thermodynamics. And today we are going to study lesson number 1. This lesson number 1 basically has got 7 items. And these 7 items we are only going to cover 3 today. That's it. 20 minutes. And then you go on teaching yourself as if there is somebody present, before you. This is called, you visualize the material yourself and you teach it to yourself. This works in any field of life, even playing football. Ice skating. The champions, before their actual performance, they visualize it in their own head 100 times. What they're exactly going to do there on the pitch. And this is a very powerful clue we should give to our kids. And that's why sometimes we should not teach. We should sit backside and tell them, come up and teach us what has been going on here. And then comes cue. Now cue is a very powerful thing. When we fall prey to Maya, what Maya basically does is cue. There is a pattern of fall down. There is a regularized method of our particular samskara. When it gets triggered by a cue, we start mechanically acting in a particular direction. We have to do that activity in that sequence. Till then we don't feel satisfied. It's just like some people, I don't want to name the devotee. Earlier days he had a habit that as soon as he would come to temple, straight go to Govinda's. No darshan, no nothing, no other thing at all. The first, as soon as you step inside, first thing you say is Govinda's. So you got a queue. Then there is a mechanical process that he would follow, that is to go pay some money, figure out what is the best item that he would like to have now, munch it down, drink water. Then after that the brain will start working in other ways. And then he would go to temple for darshan. And this had become his routine. So one day he came to me and he said, Prabhu, क्या मेरे को इतना बुरा लगता है कभी कभी, ऐसा कैसे आधी पोटोबा मग विठोबा, तो मैंने बोला कितना साल हो गया आपको भक्ति में? बोला 3 साल हो गया अभी, आदत छोड़ना है मेरे को. पहले ठीक था. So then we started generating a different cue. I told him, because you come from this particular door, you have a problem there. You change the queue. You change the queue. So he started coming from the service gate, and through the ashram, down below, and he would straight land up to the, temple entrance, bypassing the Govindas, completely. Drishtiyad, Srishtiyad. So cues are powerful. You have seen sometimes children when they are not remembering something, you just give them the first trigger. Dehinosmin. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kauvaram yo. Immediately the whole garden starts after that. That's called cue. So what this is to be done with is, now my problem is I'm talking on both levels. I'm talking about academic level, and I'm also talking about giving them our spiritual knowledge. So forming acronyms, poems, acrostics and other such memory cues helps children immediately recollect the stored information. So that's one part of the story. In spiritual life, for Ajamila, that sight of the prostitute and the Shudra, that became a cue. And he wasted some 50 years of his life or something in sinful activities. Just one cue. It triggered something in the past in his memory, and then phew. So this is why the best way to help people develop spiritual memory is to do cultural engineering. In our temples, homes, workplaces, interactions, we have to make the culture a default setting for stimulating Krishna's remembrance. If we can't give them Krishna's remembrance, we should at least prompt goodness, sattva guna, which means objects, speech, artifacts, activities that people will come across as they step in should either prompt Krishna consciousness or prompt mode of goodness. So that is called cultural engineering. And this should be done everywhere. The default setting is we live life in sattva, if not Shuddha sattva. And this really helps in improving memory. Q. This is a very big topic. If I get carried away, I speak 2 hours. So I'm just going ahead. So there is group. Just like if I have to tell you my phone number, If I group what I'm saying as my number, then it's easy to remember than the typical prose way of telling it. So that technique is called grouping. This is different than organizing. Organizing was after having learned the material, you have formulated your own learned material. You don't even need to refer back to that original book or whatever. This is enough. That is organization. This is a different technique. This talks about how the child should be taught to chunk similar pieces of information under one heading and then generate cues that stimulate memory of those headings. To give a simple example, we have Bhagavad Gita that we study in sections, right? So we group, even though the verses are 42 in number in one chapter, we group them. And we know, oh, in this is happening. In this is happening. In this is happening. It becomes even more easy to remember. The acronym for chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Who remembers? Gita. G for surrender to Guru. I for identity. I am not body, I am spirit, soul. T for two dharmas. Swadharma, which means Varnashram, and Krishna consciousness, which means Swarupa Dharma. And A for becoming Sthita Prajna or Atma Rama, by practicing these two dharmas properly. So this first 1 to 10 talks about this, talks about this. Easy to remember. This is called group. And what this Gita is called is Q. You are getting? So, henceforth when you teach, you make this as your homework before you enter into the classroom, by which your audience can at the end of the class also remember the major cues, the major groups, and they can even rehearse it, at least in brief. Okay. Is this good enough? Are we going in the right direction? Are you getting what you came here for? Yes. Yes, it is all coming to you in the notes. User friendly. And also the alasya friendly. So the code notes बनाएगा. Teacher को ही मेहनत करने दो सारा. Yes.
We have seen some videos about super brain yoga or some people call it the village hospital. Earbuds and exercise. Is that part of the syllabus or what's your opinion on that?
Super brain yoga, I did research on this because many of our congregation kids and their parents were asking me about it. There were some fellows who were promising very lucrative results at a handsome price to be paid to them for teaching it. So I got on the case of it. So I figured out that their method of trying to, what they call it, stimulating the brain power, has flawed scientific basis. By flawed I mean there is some research that has been done on it, there are some conclusions about it, but there is not a single, what you call, provable evidence that this works, except that the kids can sometimes read with blindfolded and that type of stuff. So I personally felt that it is something like a 30% success in that field that they have got, and they already commercialized it, prematurely. That's my feeling about what that is. So if you pay $100 to it, you get value worth $30. That's my experience. And I leave it up to you whether you like that proposal of it's okay, $30 worth value, no problem. And there are parents like that, they say okay, itna help hai to koi problem nahi hai. So it's up to you. As regards to Ganesha yoga, na, that's it. Utak Baitak with this is thoroughly Vedic. The moment a child does this, his Ida and Pingala, the two nadis in the body, and his breathing pattern become so immediately straightened up. So to say, straightened up means they those koshas that have some jam, they open up immediately. It's a very immediate effect phenomenon, and it does work. And that's why in our school days, if you do mischief or don't do homework, or if you feel like dull, not doing anything in the class, the teacher calls, come here, Ganesh yoga, do sit-ups, utak baitak, few times, and it works. But there is a way that teacher should actually teach it. The breathing pattern has to be taught. How much you can't sit down with your buttocks touching your heel again. There is a way, half sit and get up, and there is a breathing pattern to that. So all that also has to be taught for full effect. Even that komda, murga, oh, it's too good. It's very effective in terms of, I think William doesn't know this. Will someone like to show what is murga? In India, there is a punishment that a teacher would give to the students, where you send your two hands across your knees while sitting down and hold odd side of the ear with you hold with the right hand the left ear, and with the left hand the right ear, and you sit like that for a while. It's painful, but it straightens you up. So to say. So these are the kind of punishments given, and they are very valid. My suggestion is we should teach this not as punishments to kids, but we should teach this as fun. It's real fun yoga, to them, so that they voluntarily, once in a while, you go in the room, they are sitting like a murga. So good, very nice. So this is. Any other questions?
Nowadays there are groups which try to teach the children from the age of 6 months. They show the play cards, they show the books before their currently and basically by the age of 2 years their child has read more than 2,000 books, 500 books. So how much is?
Yeah, again, at which age should child start reading too much? That's a good question to ask. So as I said, there are prodigies, or there are people who have it in their subtle memory already. We just stimulate it, and that cue given, then it comes out. But those are not the things to be done for regular children. So this is a problem. Watching YouTube is a problem, because sometimes you see something that works for somebody, and you make that a standard, for many others who are not meant for it. So my suggestion is, ideally, hold back. In the beginning, storytelling, song singing, and enacting, has a role to play in terms of assimilating good material. Eventually, and of course, discussions with the kids, whole class discussions.
Could you narrate us how best we can use this cultural engineering for the upliftment of mood and mood of kids, outside people and devotees?
Yeah, cultural engineering basically means we have 5 senses, jnanendriyas. What ahara they get creates a samskara inside. So in a scenario where you can't tell instruction and change behavior, culture works very fine. So you create stimuli that create particular types of samskaras by which eventually the behavior changes. And to give the example of this is in Ganpati festival when they play the rock music on the monster-like looking sound systems, full volume. And if you happen to go into the vicinity of that sound, that rock music agitates our Muladhara chakra, and desires for sex and violence increase in the heart. And immediately the person starts behaving very wild. You have seen? Their face, their gestures. And that happens without their knowledge and consent. Just by the culture that is present around. Oh, sometimes people, they act very shana. They think that, I will not take this Krishna consciousness like this. The more you try and debate with me philosophically, I'll counter you. No problem. Give prasadam. Arrange for whatever they appreciate in ISKCON to be a regular connection. Music, kirtan. Some people like fragrance of incense. Those kind of things. They open the books and they smell them. They go, wow, what a nice book. So those are the kind of things that work. So in cultural engineering, in short, means sensory stimuli that completely enriches all the 6 senses of a person without philosophizing with them. No philosophy anywhere. So that's called cultural engineering.
So Prabhuji, if you try to do that with children, they will ask you how.
How or why? How means?
How by listening to music which is in the mode of goodness.
You come in mode of goodness.
So, how do you prove it?
First of all, we'll prove it from Bhagavatam for ourselves. This is a Bhagavatam verse 11:13:4. You can study this more elaborately at home. I'll just project it here for a while and then give a brief explanation. In this, the Hamsa Avatara of Lord is answering questions of sons of Brahma, the Chatushkumaras. And they have asked this question, how can somebody change one's nature? Sometimes without taking to spirituality it's difficult. Somebody is not wanting to take to spirituality, how will you change their swabhava? So here is an alternative method given in Bhagavatam. For those children who don't want spirituality, but we want their nature to change. Please repeat. Agamo apah prajadeshah kalah karma cha janma cha ध्यानम मंत्रोथ संस्कारो दशैते गुणहेतवः. So it says 10 items dashayete gunahetavah. They cause certain modes to flourish in the person. First is agama. Agama means what kind of books you read. Harry Potter or Shamchi Ai. That changes your that changes your modes. Apaha, what kind of water you drink. So, if just make us a regular habit that first thing in the morning, you make a fresh glass of water, offer it to the Lord with tulsi, that water is put into the main tank, from which everybody drinks water. So they are always drinking Maha water of the Lord. No questions asked, no discussions had. It's just the default setting. And of course avoid Coca-Cola and other such stuff, because apaha makes a big difference in your. So that is apaha. I'm very briefly saying this topic because that's not the main theme today, but still. Prajaha, association of people in general, or what kind of students you associate with. That's why a teacher has a right whom he wants to take as his students. So unless we are like Prabhupada, we should not generally go into preaching hippies. We will not change them usually. They will change us. We will become a hippie after some time. So we have to be careful. Prajaha. Then Deshaha, which place you stay. So Prabhupada says temple is in Shuddha Sattva, countryside and farm is in mode of goodness, city life is in mode of passion, and jhopadpatti, brothels, liquor shops, mode of ignorance, slaughterhouse nearby. So we have to choose appropriately our place, at least make our own home into temple proper. Then Kalaha, which time of the day you become functional. If you become functional in the morning, Sattva Guna, daytime Raja Guna, night times Tamo Guna. So we have to put that into the habit. If we sleep at 8:30, 9 p.m., our children sleep at 8:30 and 9 p.m. right from beginning. That becomes the culture. If we sleep at 12 o'clock, they follow the suit, maybe a little extra, 1 o'clock. And then we say, well, ye sudharta hi nahi hai. Then karma. Which type of occupational activities we take to. So occupations like teaching, consulting, counseling, coaching are goodness. Even painting, music, so many. So then Janma, how the birth took place for the child. Of course, that's now not under our control, it's already taken place. But it can be arranged for in Garbhadhana Samskara. Then Dhyanam, what do you meditate upon all the time? You have seen on the highways there's Coca-Cola, 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 Coca-Cola. Then the gadi, after one kilometer of bombarding, they say turn here for Coca-Cola. The vehicle turns after that. Because the meditation has been built, very nicely. Dhyanam. Then mantraha, which mantras do you chant? Nowadays kids are very expert at by hearing all the advertisements, TV commercials. End to end they can tell you. By chanting those mantras, ye dil mange more, or kar lo duniya mutti mein. So those mantras, mantra means that which tames your mind. So by reciting particular slogans, our consciousness becomes molded in a particular way. So if we can't offer them to chant japa, which is sometimes boring to kids because it's not active as such, best is to teach them kirtan, and as much kirtan as they can do, morning, evening. And atha samskaraha, which samskaras they undergo, rituals of purification. So there is jata karma, chuda karana, namakarana, vidyarambha, upanayana, on and on. There are 16 samskaras. So we should perform them for the child. And I just today morning had a discussion with a parent. They were telling, uska upanayan ka time aa gaya hai, so we will go to some guru. He is a Hindu well-known preacher guru, but initiated in Mayavadi Sampradaya. So they said we will give him upanayanam from him. I said, is that what you really feel is the option, or there are other options? Are you open to anything else? They said, no, we are open to anything. I said, why not give to some Vaishnava Sampradaya priests? We know that in ISKCON, gurus are fearful to give initiation because of karma and all that, and so many things. But there are Shri Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya, Kumar Rudra Sampradaya. Their people, they give Upanayana, to kids. Why don't you do from a Vaishnava that same samskara? At least. I'm not saying ISKCON, but at least from a Vaishnava background. So we should actually make those samskaras happen for our children. Because at that time a strong impression is generated on the mind that I am in a more purified stage and a more responsible stage than I was before. And I have to function on this platform now. Like in schools, they have this Vidyarambha in the beginning of the year. It gives a solid impression to the child that here I have come for a purpose. I have a responsibility. So, Dasha ete guna hetavaha. This is cultural engineering in Bhagavatam. So, I will pause there. Before we take a break now, I would request you just spend 5 minutes, turn around, pair up with anybody sitting next to you. Introduce yourself to them quickly. I am so and so coming from here. This is my service. And then talk from today's topic. Anything that you are carrying home to be used in your service. Is that okay? So your time starts now. Introduce yourself. Briefly tell them what is that few things that you really liked or you are going to apply. That's the point. You are going to apply in your service in future.